unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it aloud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules, a new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Change it.
Welcome. How is everyone doing this morning? I am excited to be back from vacation, still recovering, and I'll let everybody know about that return trip. Well, I may have visited a city near you on my return trip because I crisscrossed just about most of the United States, but I'm back home and I'm very, very happy to be home. I hope everyone is having an amazing Trump day. And so for all those out there that might be new, welcome to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and how is everyone doing? What's up, Mile High Trish? Happy Trump Day. Happy Trump Day indeed. What's up, Rich Roper? And I see, yeah, you do have a question there on XRP. I'd be happy to try and get you an answer on this morning's podcast. Rich, thank you for joining. What's up, Gary? How have you been, man? I'm glad to see you. Gary 7 Zester, give us the scoop on your vacation. How are you? I am doing well. The vacation was great. I'll finish saying hellos and then I'll tell everybody the short version of my return trip, because that is the reason that I am still recovering even now, even though I was supposed to have gotten back to Puerto Rico many days ago. Well, it didn't end up happening that way. Didn't happen that way. The best laid plans of mice and men. But let me say hello to everybody first, and I'll jump into that one. Deborah Muse, good morning. Good morning, Deborah. Proud Eric, hey, Zeb, good to see you, man. I've been praying for the husband of your friend. Dad told us about this condition a couple of weeks ago. Good to see you, my friend. No, absolutely. There are so many out there that need prayers at this point. I am glad to see you, though, proud Arab American, and I'm happy to be here. Well, good morning, Nana Anna. Welcome. Good morning, Mary Jones and Savvy. All right. Savvy flying the Psycho Airlines. The problem ended up being United Airlines. And so for everyone, I'll go ahead. I'll jump into that one. Sorry for those that want to get right to crypto questions, but I like to vent about it as well. I'm still venting over the whole insanity of it. But so what ended up happening was I was headed back on Saturday morning to Puerto Rico. Was supposed to get back Saturday somewhere around, I think it was 6 or 7 at night. And I was going to be flying from Seattle to Chicago. And then Chicago, I was literally going to be there for an hour in the O'Hare Airport. And then I was going to be on my way to San Juan. Well, on the way from Seattle to Chicago, something catastrophic occurred in the O'Hare Airport. And so we got to Chicago, but we couldn't land. And so we started circling the Chicago airport, hoping that we could get in. And, well, we started to run out of gas. And so they diverted my flight that was going to land in Chicago, got diverted to Rockford, Illinois. We landed in Rockford, Illinois, spent 3 or 4 hours taxiing around, getting gas, before we finally managed to fly back to Chicago, needless to say, missing every connecting flight or possible way to fix it. And that flight in Chicago was the scariest flight I've ever been on in my life. Half of the airplane was vomiting, the other half were praying. And so there were people on every row praying because we were literally going through so much turbulence that we were floating out of our seats. And now I have pretty good stomach. I had terrible motion sickness when I was young, but my love for fishing I ended up eventually just breaking through my motion sickness problem. Well, even I was in a flush sweat. I had the bag out. I was ready to use it because, well, everybody else was vomiting, and that started a chain reaction of vomiting on the plane. And so it was either vomiting and praying or vomiting and only praying or both at the same time. But luckily, we had a very diverse plane. And so I have a feeling that we were praying to literally someone on the plane was praying to every single possible deity on this earth. We managed to land in Chicago. And at that point, everything has been missed. And so they decide they're going to fly me to Houston. So I end up flying to Houston, Texas, where I then spend, a good 4 or 5 hours sleeping in a combination of the floor and etc. before finally then getting a plane all the way back to San Juan. And so I spent about 48 hours in airports over this weekend and visited four different airports across the country. And well, I have been recovering ever since. Between the jet lag and the lack of sleep for 40 some hours, I have been recovering. And so there's the short version of my return trip. But the trip itself, the vacation, was awesome. It just didn't necessarily have the best ending. But it was a great time. I had a lot of great photos, got to see a lot of awesome animals and see a glacier and all of that. And so very, very blessed. But definitely I could have wished for a little bit smoother of a return trip. I could have wished for a little bit smoother. So I am still recovering. Guys, I am trying. Today is really going to be my first day where I get to go through and our video for the midnight airdrop was set to release. I had it recorded. It was set to release. For some reason, it did not release on the YouTube channel while I'm gone. And so I have to go through today and figure that out. I'm hoping that means that video is going to be posted later today because the video was done and set for release, but for some reason it never released. And so I'll be figuring that one out today and going through and getting myself back to organized on all fronts, or at least trying to. I doubt I'll get it all organized today, but I'm going to start that journey. And so my apologies for that one. I have no idea why that video did not release. What I had gotten into my midnight airdrop tutorial video, just as a heads up for those out there that were looking forward to that one, the video that has already been recorded that was supposed to release goes through and shows how to claim on Bitcoin, Ethereum, on your ledger. And so it shows Bitcoin, Ethereum, and two others being claimed from your ledger hardware device. The video that I had released did not include the XRP tutorial because XRP from your ledger is much more difficult. And so that is going to be a part of on my schedule for doing very, very quickly this week is getting a perfect video together for specifically XRP claiming on the midnight token airdrop. But I had already gotten just about every other different blockchain figured out at that point. And so, yeah, and I know that was my trust. The one we really need is the XRP. Yes, very much so, because the other ones are much easier than the XRP one. The XRP one's going to require manual signatures. And so that's where I wanted to make certain that I had a really in-depth video for it. I went through and I was trying to get it ready for that video that was set to release. And needless to say, I was already at 30 some minutes of recording, just going through all the other blockchains XRP on its own is probably going to take 30 minutes in its own video to explain how to properly claim your midnight token. So we're going to have that one, guys. Don't worry. I will get it out there. It is possible. And so we will succeed. When there is a will, there is a way. But as a heads up, from everything I learned through that process, it is very much so the most difficult blockchain to claim on. And so just a heads up, but that video will be coming, and the video showing everybody how to do their Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, etc. That one's already been done. I wish y'all had already had access to it, but just as you say, Mile High Trish, the most important one really is XRP, I know, for the community. And so we're going to get that one. Oh, Rocker Mom, thank you so much. No, thank you. Well, it was quite the nightmare. And it's really the only part of flying that I hate. It's that worry over the airlines and over the insanity. I'm not scared of the heights. I'm not scared of the plane, but I get a great deal of anxiety traveling between all the airports just because of the insanity of it all. Savvy, oh dear Lord, that's bad. Sorry you went through that. Try being on a plane where crew's all drunk and turbulence roller coaster in the sky. It was a roller coaster in the sky. And if I had known how bad it was, Savvy, I would have been asking for some airplane bottles if I had known what I was getting into ahead of time. But it was so bad that they had everybody locked in to their seats. There was no getting out of it. You couldn't even run away from the people vomiting next to you. Where were you going to go? You couldn't possibly stand up. You would have gotten slung across the airplane or smashed into the roof. And so it was impressive. It was impressive. I was feeling very confident for the first 5 or so minutes, enjoying it, enjoying the roller coaster ride. And then after about 5 minutes, it wasn't funny anymore, and it started to get very, very serious. Oh, no. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you guys so much. It was an adventure, but I got to see a few more airports that I've never seen in my life on account of it. And it was interesting. Gary 7, did your cats miss you? I hope they were not on the flight. The cats did. I have been sleeping under a pile of 3 cats for the past couple of days. They are not willing to let me out of their sight. This morning really is the first. They've finally gotten back to, okay, we don't think he's going anywhere. They're feeling a little more comfortable with me again. Savvy, are your cats still mad you left? I did get a few extra scratches that I think that they might be trying to act like were mistakes, but I think might have been on purpose. Tommy, Tommy, the one who loves to be up here and loves to be on my shoulder, he has been digging his claws in to ensure that he does not get removed from my shoulder. And so I think that they may be a little irritated with me, but I think they're more happy that I'm back. They were very well taken care of, though. They had somebody coming by to play with them every day. And so not only were they getting, their normal eating habits, but they were also getting their normal affection and things of that nature. And so they weren't too upset, I think, because they did have somebody who was coming by and spending an hour each day hanging out with them. So, Rebecca, any positive comments about the Kraken exchange? Rebecca, Kraken is a perfectly good centralized exchange. I have zero negatives. They do require a lot of information in terms of KYC, in terms of knowing you, but that's no different than Coinbase or Gemini or any of the other ones. So in that regard, I am a big fan of Kraken. Actually, I have a family member who works for Kraken. I've heard a lot of great things. I know that from a corporate standpoint that they seem to be doing things at a very good way. And so I can't say a single bad word about it. Rebecca, the only thing that used to be a problem with Kraken and is now not as much of a problem, Kraken used to have a very limited selection of cryptocurrencies that you could buy. That has changed. And so in the past, that would have been my negative. My negative comment on Kraken would have been, well, it's very limiting. You can't really choose many different cryptos. It really was only good in the past if you wanted Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. It was very concentrated. That has changed. It has opened up a lot more. And so now you can get a lot more cryptos on Kraken. I have a Kraken account. And so I don't use it near as often as Coinbase. Coinbase is always my go-to when I am bringing money into crypto. But I do have one. I have a Gemini, I have a Kraken, I have an Uphold, I have a Coinbase. Kraken also is very good for people in certain states, which I believe is New York. Kraken and Gemini tend to be very good for folks that are in New York. And to my knowledge, that may have changed. I don't live in New York, but I seem to remember that being the story, was that they were very good in certain states that had some limitations on other centralized exchanges. So I hope that one helps, though, Rebecca. But no, I would absolutely. And a lot of times these different exchanges will have different little bonus programs going on. And hey, it's always fun to jump in and take advantage of some of that also. Very important one. Yes, thank you, Mile High Trish. Please do remember, folks, that the content in this podcast is for information and educational purposes. It is not intended to provide financial or medical advice. Please consider everything discussed to be Zester's opinion only. And do consult with a professional before making any major decisions. Thank you so much for making certain I get that one, Trish. It's an important one. Rich Roper, have you decided when the one-on-one will start? We should be back on track in the next day or so. As soon as I get everything back to organize and I see where everything's sitting, I'll be able to let everybody know far more specifically, because I was set to be ready to go last week. I was just gone. So everything should still be on track in that regard. Richard Gregory, the whole airline industry is a mess and dangerous. It is. It was insanity, absolute insanity. And they were booking me on flights that had already left. It was like United didn't even know what time it was in the different airports across the time zones. It was absolute insanity. I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off for hours because of United's customer service. Proud American, abso-flippin'-lutely. Just another reason why we need the RV to go, so we can get a private plane. I want to fly private, and it's not even because I don't want to be with people. I just don't want to deal with the airport staff. It's the people at the airport that really make the entire adventure into an adventure in the first place. All right, yeah, air travel is equivalent to weekend carnival rides. Yeah. D. Rambo, thanks, Escalade. Great to see you home safe. When you flew into Seattle, I'm sure you flew over my apartment building since I live in the flight pattern. That's too cool. D. Rambo. All right, Rocker Mom. Rocker Mom says, is Bitcoin cheaper than Uphold when it comes to purchasing crypto? The little that I've dabbled in crypto over the past 4 years, I've purchased on Uphold. And so, Rocker Mom, I think you're talking about like Coinbase. Is Coinbase cheaper than Uphold or Kraken or Gemini? They're fairly equivalent on pricing, or fairly equal on pricing, Rocker Mom. I think you might have a slightly lower fee depending upon which tier you are on each exchange. And so the more that you hold, or the longer you've had certain accounts, you'll end up getting into different payment tiers. And so like on Coinbase, if you have Coinbase One, which is that monthly subscription, if you pay that monthly subscription, you don't pay exchange fees. And so things like that can change that entire, they can change that entire discussion very quickly. But when it comes down to just normal accounts, normal purchasing, I believe that Uphold and Coinbase are very, very close to the same, assuming you are buying with your bank account and not buying with a credit or debit card. Credit and debit cards, and anytime you purchase with them in crypto, expect your fees to be astronomically higher than they would be any other way. And that's just because, well, it's logical. You're paying the fee that the company wants, and you're also paying the fee that the credit card company wants. And so that fee can easily be 3% or more. And so, if you're making a $100 purchase, you're going to be paying $3 to the credit card company. And on top of that, whatever the money is to the company who's actually trading your crypto for you, who's actually exchanging crypto. And so in that regard, that's just one pretty much universal guarantee. If you're buying with credit and debit, expect to pay more, but it is convenient. You're paying for the convenience. And so uphold the Rocker Mom. If that's where you bought your Bitcoin or your XRP or whatever, you did not get a bad deal. You did not get a bad deal. Now you could have bought at a time when the prices were very high or something of that nature. But that's that can happen on any exchange to anyone at any time. That's not really their fault or anything else. That's just where the market's at. Gary 7, on vacation, did you keep up with crypto or did you relax? Gary, I tried to avoid a lot of keeping up with things. I had not had a vacation where I did not work, or it wasn't a work trip that I got a day of vacationing on. I have not had a actual, week of being on vacation in so long. I cannot remember when it was. And so I tried my best to avoid things, but I can't entirely avoid keeping an eye on the market. So I was just looking at the general markets and seeing where the market was going, but I wasn't digging deep into what was going on during it. I've been catching up in that regard over the past day or so. All right. Deborah Muse, question. Do you know which exchanges will allow a person to open an account using an LLC or LP? Deborah, that's a great question. I know for a fact that Coinbase will. But whenever you do it on Coinbase, you will be signing up for a Coinbase business account. That comes with benefits. Now, it does come with a lot of rigmarole, but I have gotten one of these set up for a business before. And so I know that it is very doable. It does take a lot of paperwork. Coinbase gets very, very ornery about having an LLC, setting up an account. But once you do have that account through Coinbase, you then have a business account who have a lot of special rules. You're allowed to move a lot of money through that account. It is very, 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 very well accounted for, so that the IRS stays very, very happy with your company and things of that nature. And so, yes, Deborah, you absolutely can. But for Coinbase, as an example, you would actually be signing up for Coinbase Business. You would not be signing up for the same Coinbase Retail like a normal person would be. It works very much like a normal account would. It's just got a lot of extra features. And I do believe there can be some costs associated with it, depending upon whether you do enough volume or not. I do believe that there are some costs associated, but they were very, very low. Coinbase had made it very reasonable to have a business that had a crypto account. And that's going to get easier and easier. I'm certain, Deborah, that you can also do that on other exchanges. If Coinbase offers the service, I'm certain that the other big boys are not going to be left behind, because that's going to be very big business going into the future. Because every single little business owner, say it's Freedom Forge Coffee, say it's coffee. Well, they're going to need a Coinbase account because people are going to start making purchases with crypto more often. Every small business is going to end up needing a business exchange account in order to be able to write their books, in order to be able to buy product, in order to be able to exchange to US dollars or back to crypto. Everybody's essentially going to end up needing one. And so it's going to become very big business for these exchanges to be offering business accounts. So hope that one helped. I know, Deborah, first one I can absolutely guarantee is Coinbase, just because I've set one up before. So I know that they have it. Rebecca, there. Thanks. I was kind of creeped out. I keep receiving text messages from Coinbase sending me my access code to remove funds when I have not used that account for a while. Yes, Rebecca, those are very, very sketchy. I have been getting a lot of those recently. Matter of fact, I got scared while I was on vacation because I had very spotty cell service, and I had a few messages come in saying, "Hey, we notice that your Coinbase account has been accessed from here. We notice it's been accessed from here. Now, I would absolutely say one of the first things to look at is look at where those text messages are coming from. I got a lot that are coming from some very weird 63 area code and things like that. And also what I always recommend, first step, whenever you start getting those things, if you do think they might be real and you are worried about that they might be real, if so, first things first is actually just go over and log into your account, not through their link. Don't follow anything. If somebody sent you a text saying, hey, there's a problem with your Coinbase account, don't follow their link. Go to your normal link that you would normally go to for Coinbase. Go to your Coinbase account and see if there's an issue. Because ultimately, if there's a major issue on your account, it will be flagged the second you log in. What you don't want to do is click on their link that they sent you, that the scammer sent you, and log in. Because that's how they're stealing your information. They are trying to get you to panic, answer their messages, call them, and give them your information. So don't do that. Don't do that no matter what. Coinbase will never ask for your information in that regard. It's not going to happen. And so, Rebecca, those are very creepy. They are very sketchy, and they are something that people need to be careful about because sometimes they look very legitimate, very, very legitimate. I had a panic with one over the week. I looked at it and I was like, that is real. That is super real. And then I paid a little more attention to it and said, oh, wait a second. Why would Coinbase be contacting me this way? They wouldn't be. And so just keep that one in mind, everybody out there. As you're going, Coinbase is the most popular exchange for Americans. And so that means scammers use its name the most because, well, there's a high likelihood that when they send out these bulk messages, that a lot of those people have Coinbase accounts. They didn't even know you had one. They just guessed because there's a high likelihood that you have one. All right, Rockermon. Yeah, yes on Coinbase. Thank you, Zester. Yes, bank account. All right, yeah, I believe Rockermon, you're probably looking at the same general costs on either one. If it's different, it's going to be a fraction of a percentage. It really is. Gary 7, what are some Coinbase business advantages? What about other places besides Coinbase? Gary 7, I know on Coinbase in particular that Coinbase business had far larger limits. And so I could deposit much more money in a single day. I could withdraw much more money in a single day. I had lower transfer fees in terms of sending from. So if you had a Coinbase business account, you can transfer money to other businesses that have Coinbase business accounts for free. And so that was another major benefit, was you could transfer to other Coinbase users free and clear to their business accounts. On top of that, I believe it was just lower actual swap fees if you reached certain volumes per month. And so if you say as a business did $10,000 a month in transactions, well, now you got drastically lower fees. Things like that. Gary, what were most of the advantages? And you actually got a person to talk to. And so that was another major advantage with a Coinbase business account, is you actually had a business account manager who was there to help you. Now, I would say that person, in my scenario, that person was not necessarily the fastest to get back with responses, but it was still a person. And that is a really big advantage in this world of 2025. Getting a real human being on a phone call on most of these tech companies is literally impossible. And so in that regard, that is another major advantage, actually having a human being to talk to, because you're not going to get that in most places. But Gary, in terms of other places that offer business accounts, I know that Kraken and Gemini do. I just don't know. I just haven't used them yet. I know that Kraken and Gemini offer that service as well. And I do believe that you could, on some of these, set up an individual LLC that maybe wasn't the same as a business account. I just think it might take a little bit more workarounds. Another idea is to operate with a trust. And I know that you could easily set up a trust to hold an account. And I wonder if that may not be one of the best answers as we start to look towards a point in time where we're going to be able to buy a lot more crypto. A trust might be a great way of protecting ourselves. To the trust professionals and see if there aren't some even better ways to potentially set up business style accounts, because it would be a major issue. You would need essentially a business account if, say, you wanted to make $100,000 purchase of Bitcoin, and it not be a huge nightmare. You show up to Coinbase with $100,000 just out of nowhere, they're going to have questions on your personal account. You get set up with a business account, you show up with $100,000 and they just go, hey, nice Monday. So yes. Deborah Muse, I got a message from Coinbase that my phone number was attempting to be changed in my account. Yeah, no, you gotta why. Yeah, it is. It's very, very scary. It's very, very scary. I would just make certain, exactly like Mile High Trish says here, if I got them out, I would just log into Coinbase, change my password. It really does. That's the best way. Just do not, no matter who ever tells you you have a problem with your account, don't follow their links. Go your own route. You get that email, you get that text message, hey, there's a major issue with my Coinbase account. Okay. Get off of that. Don't look at it anymore. Go to your normal login for your normal Coinbase account. Log in and see if Coinbase says there's a problem. 99.99999% of the time, nothing was a problem. The way you would have gotten screwed is if you had responded to that person, that scammer. That was how they were going to get you. Ultimately, they did not have access to your account. They were trying to trick you into giving them access to your account. Mile High Trish, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Mile High Trish, maybe a fun thing to have Bob Locke come on and discuss the question on trusts in crypto. I think so, Mile High Trish. I think that one would be very interesting. And maybe I could go in and see if I could establish a business account with a trust just to see what would even happen. And then we could have Bob Locke go through and explain all the benefits or detriments that might have in the crypto space. But especially in cryptocurrency, I could see trusts becoming a very, very important legal tool, just because of the nature of cryptocurrency and ownership, and the very idea of something that really is it's owned, and that ownership is held on a public blockchain. A trust honestly seems like the perfect way of holding an asset, and that's like that. So I think there's a large conversation to be had there, Trish, and I think we need to get Bob Locke. I'll have to send him a message right after the stream today and see if he would not be willing to come on and talk specifically crypto. I know he may have to do a little bit of research on that one because I'm not certain just how crypto. I don't know how much crypto experience Bob has, so I will find out on that front. But all right, guys. We're not going to have a crazy long one today because I need to go figure out our videos and catch up on everything. But we do have some news to go through. And so I'm going to pop that up on the screen. I'll still be answering any questions I see come along the way. But let me get up some of our news so that we can get a little update on what has been going on over this past week. All right, market as a whole. Market as a whole is, well, not looking particularly happy. Overall market capitalization is back below 4 trillion. Bitcoin sitting at 113,000. I believe we dipped to about 112 over the past day or so in this little panic. Ethereum, I mean, it's massively down from that crazy run it went on over the past week, but still holding pretty darn high at 42.69. XRP, not the same story, unfortunately, sitting at $2.91. XRP had a bit of a tough run over the past 7 days. We have been bleeding essentially ever since our little 334 that we got on the 13th. I was very, very excited that morning when I saw that. I thought we were finally going to break out and start on our way to $4 or $5. But well, that was really not in the cards. And when you look at what's going on across the market, it makes sense. Everybody is panicking over inflation, and they're panicking over what they think Jerome Powell is going to do about it. And that in and of itself is very much seeming to be the major worry. Investors brace for Powell's speech as Bitcoin dip nears 112K. Investors brace for Jerome Powell's Jackson Hole speech that could set the U.S. Fed's path on interest rate cuts. This is where a lot of uncertainty is currently sitting at. And as we'll see in some of our other articles, it's really coming from across the board. We're seeing a lot of uncertainty from across the board in crypto right now. But cryptocurrency investors were bracing for the U.S. Federal Reserve's annual gathering in Jackson Hole on Friday, where Jerome Powell's remarks may provide key signals on interest rate policy heading into September's Federal Open Market Committee meeting. Now, according to, and this is, I would honestly have to kind of get behind a lot of the current talking heads and financial speakers and such on this one in the crypto space, that I do think that we are seeing a lot of rising nerves in the market. And so Bitcoin's dip below 113,000 was a snapshot of rising nerves in the market as macroeconomic tensions surrounding Powell's speech were causing fear spikes among digital asset traders, according to Ryan Lee, chief analyst at the BitGet exchange. And so I do believe we are seeing a large amount of anxiety over where the market's currently going. And I think that it's more than just the interest rate cuts. I think that we have honestly gotten to a point where, like in the case of XRP, over 90% of all XRP holders are in the profit. That sounds great. That is great. You're very happy to hear that 90% of all investors in XRP are in the green. That sounds like a very good thing. Well, it is. But it also is a scary thing, because that means about 90% of the supply is currently in the profit. If they sold now, they made money. And so we're seeing a lot of these things kind of come together at the same exact moment. We're seeing a lot of fears over interest rates and over inflation. And we are seeing a lot of investors are actually sitting very much in the green. And that means that it does not take a lot to convince people that it's time to sell. It's very easy to convince people to sell when they are in the green. It's very hard when people are sitting there at a break even, or maybe aren't really that much up, or if they really believe in their what they're holding, it's not easy to get them to sell even if they're down a little bit. But when you're in a situation where the vast majority of investors are in the green, it would make sense to sell, and there are concerns that the market is going to have a downturn. Well, now we're starting to look at a fairly perfect storm for seeing some fairly massive sell-offs. And XRP happens to be leading that pack. XRP has the highest density of investors that are currently in the profit, which makes sense. Most of us were buying at 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents. Well, we are massively in the green. And even somebody who bought it $1, people who were buying it as it rose, well, they're massively in the green. And that does result in a lot of fear, especially from the big boys, because they look at it and say, all right, it's my job to make money. I have made a lot of money. Now I'm going to potentially risk it over this volatility and these interest rates. Now, let's just go ahead, sell, lock in that profit, cancel out a little bit of that greed factor. And needless to say, that will result in the price of XRP going down. I do think that we are seeing this to a degree across the board. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, everybody. They have entered into a point in time where everybody's in the green and everybody's getting scared. And that is the perfect time to sell. It's logical to sell at that point in time. And it makes very good sense from an investment perspective to say, okay, I made a lot of money. I choose to sell now. I lock it in. I don't. Possibly Jerome Powell comes out here and he just, completely craps on the crypto market. And then I'm really upset that I didn't take those profits. So it is a little bit of a perfect storm in that regard. And that's something that we're seeing on both sides. Retail went from bullish to ultra bearish as Bitcoin dipped to 113K. Retail, what we can tell through the blockchain, retail traders, retail purchasers, the you and me, the average everyday crypto investor, we are selling and we are not buying. That is what the overall market appears to be indicating in a massive, massive way, and that it has been occurring since June. We have been primarily bearish since June in terms of retail. And then add on top of that, well, Bitcoin and Ether ETFs post almost $1 billion of outflows as prices slide. And so we are not only seeing sell-offs from retail investors, we are also seeing sell-offs from traditional finance and from the big boys. And so that means that we can't really blame this thing on anybody. Ultimately, just about everybody on the average is in more of a bearish mindset. That doesn't mean we're going into a bear market at all, but it does really show that both retail and professional finance are both looking at this uncertainty over interest rates and over Jerome Powell in the same light. We seem to be in agreement on that one, that we're not exactly excited about what Jerome Powell is going to say, especially with Jerome Powell's history of fighting back against Trump. I think that's, in all honesty, my biggest worry about it, is just that Jerome Powell seems more than willing to do whatever's necessary to screw over Trump. And that does concern me. That does. So, well, I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that one? Where do y'all see the interest rate cuts going, and where do y'all see the Jerome Powell speech at Jackson Hole leading us towards? Because that's where a lot of the worry is at the moment. I am cautiously optimistic, but I would say I am slightly pessimistic, just solely on account of the history we've seen between Jerome Powell and Trump. D Rambo, I'm finally setting up on Robinhood and started making my XRP purchase just in time for the dip. Now ready to do some other crypto and stock options. Robinhood has great AI chat and live people help. It does, D Rambo. It really, really does. Robinhood, the only reason I have any animus against Robinhood is entirely on account of the GameStop debacle. Ultimately, Robinhood is the type of app that I believe we need. I want people taking actual responsibility and ownership over their finances and over their financial future. Robinhood makes that very easy to do and puts it in the hands of everybody. I love that about it. I just have a little bit of a little trauma still coming from the GameStop side, but that is awesome, D Rambo. And they make it so darn easy to get in there and start getting crypto and stocks and such. I would watch out. I'd watch out for options, D Rambo, but that is not financial advice. That is just a personal opinion, entirely on that. But no, I'm glad to hear it. I will definitely be interested to see where you're. I am definitely excited to see how your experience is as you keep using it more and more. D Rambo question: when I go to sign in on Robinhood, there's also a sign in with keys. Does that mean I set up a new key number when I want to transfer crypto onto Ledger? D Rambo, I'll have to look at that one. I know Robinhood now allows for crypto in and out. And so I wonder whether they're not specifically referring to maybe setting up your own crypto wallet, connecting a crypto wallet to Robinhood. I'll have to go back through and check on that one, D Rambo, just to make certain that it isn't. I think that what they want you to do is that it's the ability to connect a wallet to Robinhood in the same way that you can connect a wallet to MetaMask or connect a wallet to a lot of other services. I think that's what they're looking for, but I'll have to look at that one. I've still got my Robinhood account somewhere. I'll go in and see what I can't figure out on that one, D Rambo. But I know that Robinhood will also just independently hold your crypto for you, and that it is not yours on some cryptocurrencies. On some cryptocurrencies, Robinhood actually holds it as the custodian, which does make it a lot easier. in terms of being able to buy it. You don't have to figure it all out. But long term, I would definitely recommend ensuring that it's on a wallet you own. Deborah Muse Wolf, I read that there's a massive amount of Ethereum waiting to get unstaked over the next 2 weeks. There is, Deborah Muse Wolf. You read correct. And so Ethereum is a proof of stake blockchain. What's very cool about that is that it doesn't require machines and electricity and anything like that to operate the blockchain like Bitcoin does. But it does mean that what people do is they take their Ethereum, they stake it, and they earn a return for their staked Ethereum. Now, they tend to stake it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever that may be. And that is public knowledge. And so what you're seeing, Deborah, is that on the blockchain, we know that in the next couple of weeks, a lot of Ethereum that was staked is going to then be released from staking. And we don't know if they're going to restake it or not. Are they going to sell some, or are they just going to restake it right back and get back to earning their regular interest? We don't know. It leads to a lot of uncertainty and concern. And so I have seen that one, Deborah. There's a lot of skepticism on the current Ethereum price that we may see a fairly large downturn, but we really don't know. It could unstake, and they could just immediately restake, because that is how it works. Whatever they set that timeline, they can't just shift it and change it. They have to wait until it's over, and then they choose their next restake. And so ultimately, Deborah, we don't know. It may be an absolute nothing to worry about, or we may see $1 billion of Ethereum sell like that. We don't know. Kyle Murak. Hi, Zester. To your knowledge, will there be any additional hoops or regulations to jump through with larger crypto purchases over 50K or more from smaller purchases, $500 or less? Thanks. Kyle, I do strongly believe that there will be. And now what those primarily are going to be is reporting and anti-money laundering. In the same way that we saw a push towards ensuring that any smaller purchases with crypto are untaxed, and do not have to be reported, I believe we'll see a very similar occurrence with larger purchases where they will need to be reported, and there will be a matter of, really the government's going to say it's a matter of money laundering, and that's where they're going to be very, very concerned, and they will be, and I think the biggest thing though, Kyle, is just to remember it will always be reported, whereas your $500 purchase, that isn't something that I think the laws are going to require reporting on. But when you go and you have a $10,000, a $20,000, a $50,000 purchase, those are going to have to be reported to the IRS. They're going to have to be reported up and down the chain. And it's just going to create kind of a burden upon the different exchanges and companies, where they're going to be the ones who are told that it's their responsibility to ensure that they report when we do things like that. So when we go make a $50,000 purchase, Coinbase is going to report it to the IRS because that's what they're going to do. I don't think, though, when it comes down to it, wallet to wallet transfers, Kyle. So this is different. When we're talking about my wallet to your wallet, my ledger to your ledger, those are not going to be the same. Those, they can't stop us. But when it comes to centralized exchanges, I think we will see very much a, hey, what is this money for? Why are you sending it here? Where'd you get this money? Did you pay taxes on this money? Hey, just so you know, we're going to tell the IRS about this, so you have to pay taxes on it. Stuff like that, I think, is going to be what you're going to get very used to seeing on larger purchases. All right. What's up, Blue? What's up, Blues Dog? Morning, Zester. Do you have a video to follow for a newbie? I would like to start and hold for the long term. Well, very, very welcome, Blue Dog. I'm glad to see you here. And I would say that on the channel, some of the earliest videos that I have, so if you go to the live and you go all the way back to the very beginning, I did a lot of streams in that time where all I did was went through very, very, very fundamental points for it. So I think I did one entirely on crypto terminology, slang terms, terms that you get used to seeing. I did one entirely talking about what's a centralized exchange or what's a wallet. Those in and of themselves, those would probably be a great start, Blues Dog. But also, you can always just jump in with us and ask those questions as they come up, because that is what I try to do. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11:30 a.m. I try to make certain that a large portion of the stream is just answering people's questions, because ultimately, if you have the question, someone else has the same one, and it's a lot more efficient, essentially, to just start knocking them all out, because I'm certain anything you ask, you are going to have some other folks in the community who need the same answer. And so I am excited that you are on this journey, Blues Dog. And yes, old live videos would be a great start, but also you're welcome to just jump in each day as you have something come up that's a new thing you need to learn about. Come in and ask that question. I'm certain it'll help. It'll help a lot of other folks also. Deborah Muse Wolf, how about using a DEX? Is that still the same scenario for larger purchases? All right. No, Deborah, great question. For those who don't know, DEX is a decentralized exchange. Now, Coinbase is what's known as a CEX, which, yes, tends to be translated as sex, but with a C. But so a DEX and a centralized exchange. Coinbase is a centralized exchange. The exchange is facilitated by a centralized company. They do everything. They swap your everything. A decentralized exchange is very, very different. It is an exchange that is operating off of an interconnection of smart contracts. It is not verified or validated by any singular human being or company. Anyone can provide liquidity and earn an interest rate for providing the funds necessary to facilitate trades on a decentralized exchange. That's where, like PancakeSwap or Uniswap, you can go in and you can stake your crypto or yield farm with your crypto by providing liquidity or all kinds of different things. That is decentralized. It is operating based off of the code. Anybody can participate. You do not have to know your customer or provide any information to them. Deborah, I can go on there and I can buy $1 million worth. If I had $1 million, I could buy $1 million worth of crypto and they would not know my name. They would not know me from Adam when I did. And so there is, it is a very different scenario. That's why it's a great question, Deborah, because decentralized, nope, no worries at all. I can make that $100,000 purchase. I can make that $1 million purchase. I can send $1 billion and no one can stop me. Now, I mean, I'd have to have that money in the first place to do it, but you get what I mean. There is no anything to stop you. And that's why I am a huge proponent of decentralized exchanges and of the decentralized applications. And I really believe that is where we need to stay focused. The problem with decentralized applications is really comes down to a singular point. They are a little more technically complicated to utilize, and you do not have the same safeguards in place that you have on a centralized exchange. Ultimately, in the decentralized space, it is entirely on you. Whereas with centralized, you've got Coinbase to hold responsible. You've got Kraken to hold responsible, Uphold to hold responsible. When it comes to decentralized, there is no one to hold responsible for anything. And you do need to connect your own personal wallets to these decentralized applications in order to interact. And so you don't have to give them your information, but what you do have to do is connect your wallets to them. They can't do anything with your wallet, but that's a part of how you interact with it. And so it's something that we really need to get more into having conversations about. But I do also know that when we make that move over to learning more about decentralized finance, we are going to, in that same movement, we are going to be in a somewhat dangerous position. because there are going to be members of the community who go out and try to accomplish things on decentralized exchanges, and things may go wrong if they're not extremely careful and haven't done a lot of learning on it. So I remain and have always remained hesitant to do but so much too quickly in that world. I want to start working towards laying the framework for everyone to be able to understand decentralized finance, because that really is the golden goose. Ultimately, the centralized exchanges are a stepping stone, and we need them as a part of our knowledge, as a part of our repertoire, to keep advancing to the more higher levels of what blockchain technology can accomplish. And so that was a great question, Deborah. I hope I didn't confuse everybody even more with some of my defining and describing of what a decentralized exchange is. But I am very excited to start talking more about decentralized finance. I think that's something we need to get rolling on. Maybe as soon as we get the Midnight Token airdrop hammered out and we get everybody settled on that one, we'll start on the decentralized finance route, because also it's where the vast majority of our great yield farming and staking options are. That's where you really start to get the big money, because you are at that point really the bank. You are taking over the role of the bank in decentralized finance. Whereas in the case of, staking on Coinbase, you're a customer. You're not the bank. Coinbase is the bank. You are just a user. Whereas in the world of decentralized finance, you are genuinely the bank. You take the lion's share, whether that is good or ugly. In terms of your investment decisions, you take the lion's share in decentralized finance. So I do want to start getting there, but I just want to make certain that everybody is very, very ready to dip their toes slowly when we start on that journey. Because it's very, very exciting, and everybody is going to get crazy excited when they see what's possible with decentralized finance, because you will see returns of 30-40% on many different things, but there is inherent risk. It is not a guarantee, but you will see things like that in very, very short fashion, and it tends to get people start just seeing dollar signs, and they stop thinking with the big brain, and they start thinking with greed. And so we will jump into that one, though, and we will. We absolutely will. All right, though, guys. All right. With that one, I do see the time. I know, Mile, I know you've got one to go run off to. I need to start getting life some kind of organized, and so I'm going to run off as well. And so thank you guys all so much for joining. Everything is going to be back on track in terms of the schedule. Normal time Friday, and I believe I'll be on Whiskey and Wisdom this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on the original Mark Z. For anybody who would care to join, I'm certain y'all are ready by coming in here. Y'all got the story of my travel and everything of that nature ahead of time, but I'm certain that I'll be seeing what Mike has been up to and doing all of that this evening. I'm certain it will be a good time. And so all of that said, thank you guys so much for joining. Love you all. I will see you guys again soon. Please stay safe out there and be on the lookout for the video, at least going through and explaining how to claim your Midnight tokens on just about every single blockchain besides XRP. I'm going to be starting on that XRP video in hopefully later today, and being able to get that one out to everyone. And hopefully I can make it as simple as possible. So see you guys